We as card makers send and receive so many cards throughout the year. I decided that I'll be sending lots of love and hugs to my loved ones and crafty friends with some really beautiful and heartfelt messages and wishes, letting you guys know that how much I appreciate being a part of this beautiful community. Today, we are keeping it clean and simple as we create a beautiful card using an older favorite from Altenew. This is the Winter Village die set. This die set by Altenew gives you all the pieces that you need to build a cozy winter scene, tiny houses, pine trees, even a sweet sky element with the moon and stars. It's perfect for a clean and simple card design or layered design with lots of dimension. Now, what I love about this is that how versatile it is. You can use up your cardstock scraps for the smaller pieces, mix and match colors for different vibes, and create anything from a peaceful winter night to a festive holiday village. It's one of those sets that works beautifully for quick cards but also lets you get creative with layering and detailing. We'll be creating a scene exactly similar to what you see here on the packaging. Now, there are a couple of ways you can work with these die cuts. You can either cut everything using white cardstock and add color with ink blending or alcohol markers, or you can go straight in with colored cardstock. Well, today I am going with some fun, vibrant papers by Your Paper Insider. I will be using a beautiful pink and pair it with complementary Miri Sparkle Glitter cardstock, which is more of a dark coral pink for the house. I'll be using the key lime colormate cardstock for my trees and a rich Caribbean blue for the night sky. And a little later in the video, you will also see me bringing in some of the canary yellow shimmer cardstock to tuck behind the windows for that warm, cozy glow. I went ahead and cut all of my cardstocks down to tiny little pieces, just the right size for these little dies. Then I grouped everything together with a low tack washi tape and ran it through my die cutting machine. It wasn't until I cut the houses that I realized that I needed something to go behind the windows. So that's when I bought in the canary yellow shimmer cardstock and cut a few tiny pieces to tuck behind them. That warm, sparkly glow looks beautiful against the baby pink body of the house. Now, you can absolutely use both these houses to replicate the same exact scene that I'm creating today, or even cut multiple houses in different vibrant colors of cardstocks to create a whole holiday village. But for today's card, I will be keeping it simple and using just one of the houses. I began by assembling the houses, starting with the windows. I added that soft yellow backing behind each window, and because these die cuts are so tiny and delicate, I made sure to use the tiniest drop of liquid glue. With pieces this intricate, you definitely don't want any of that glue seeping out from the edges, so a light hand works best. Once the windows were in place, I moved on to the rest of the details, carefully attaching the roof and those sweet little doors to bring each of the house to life. It's a slow and delicate process, but the results are absolutely worth it. Aren't these absolutely adorable? The soft pink paired with that warm yellow glow in the windows makes it look so cozy and inviting. The glittery rooftop adds just the right touch of sparkle without overwhelming the design. Now, moving on to the rest of the scene, you could leave the blue and the green cardstock pieces as is, but I wanted to add a little bit of shading to give everything more depth and dimension. I started with the trees. Now, since the cardstock is a very light green colored, I bought in a darker complementary shade and lightly brushed it along the edges using a mini ink blending brush. For this, I'm using the shade Let Us Celebrate ink by Altenew, and it adds the perfect little shadow to our trees. You will notice only the tip of the trees have color of them. I will then go ahead and clean my glass surface and we will move on to our sky. I did the same thing with the sky. I blended a deeper blue just along the top edge, letting the color fade naturally towards the center. You'll notice that I left the bottom portion, the part with that little mountain like silhouette, completely untouched. For this, I used Ride the Wave ink again by Altenew. This small bit of shading really helps the whole design come to life. I absolutely love using my glass mat for any kind of ink blending. As you could see, it makes cleaning between the colors so easy. You can wipe it down in seconds and there's no leftover ink to be worried about. It really keeps your work surface neat, especially when you're working with multiple shades like we did with the trees and sky. Now that all of our focal points are ready, it's time to add a little bit of extra magic to the sky. I started with a very light mist of silver shimmer spray. I kept it subtle because I wanted it to feel like a soft, sparkly, starry night rather than a heavy, glittery effect. Of course, you could go bolder if you prefer, but for this card, that gentle shimmer gives just the right touch of elegance. Once that was dried, I added a snowy effect using the Altenew Pure White spray. Now, instead of spraying directly, I carefully removed the cap and tapped the nozzle over the dark blue night sky. This creates tiny, delicate splatters that look just like snow falling softly over our village. It is such a small step, but it really brings the whole scene to life and adds that cozy, magical winter feel that makes this little village so special. I'm going to let all the ink fully dry before I start assembling everything together onto our card front. Now, you want to make sure each piece is completely dry so that the layers go down smoothly and nothing smudges. As I mentioned earlier, I'm aiming to create a scene that's similar to the one shown on the packaging with that cozy little winter village look. But before I start layering all of the elements, I wanted to take a moment to stamp my sentiment. It's always easier to add the sentiment first so it sits perfectly in the design without getting lost among all those layers. Also, if you add all those layers, it's important not to mess up in the end. So, this is the reason I like to stamp my sentiment right before adding all of those layers together. I decided to go with a sentiment that says sending love and hugs from the Flourishing Garden stamp set. I absolutely adore the delicate, elegant font on the sentiment. I just feel it matches perfectly with our tiny, cozy winter scene. Now, to make sure it was perfectly placed, I put my panel onto my stamp wheel and used a clear transparency grid sheet to first position the night sky. Now, this gave me a good idea of exactly where the sentiment should go. Once I had it lined up, I placed my sentiment on the grid transparency sheet, checked that it was straight, and then stamped it onto the panel using VersaFine Onyx Black ink. I stamped it twice to get a bold, crisp impression that really stands out against that wintry background. You could definitely heat emboss the sentiment for extra shine, but I decided to leave it as is. I love the simplicity and elegance it brought to the card. Now that the sentiment is ready, it's time to assemble all those tiny little pieces. I started by gluing down the night sky over the sentiment, creating a perfect backdrop for our scene. Then I added a little strip of thin foam tape to each of those tiny little pieces before adhering them. This gives just a subtle lift, adding dimension without being overpowering. Now, if you prefer a flatter look, you could absolutely adhere all the pieces directly onto the blue sky. But the thin foam tape I'm using here gives just the slightest pop, which really makes the houses and the trees stand out against the background and brings the whole winter scene to life. Now, if you wanted, you could also cut out the little stars from the die set and add them to the sky. But for this one, I felt that the subtle shimmer spray was enough to create our magical twinkling night sky effect. Now, once the scene was complete, I added some foam tape to the back of the panel and adhered it onto a top folding A2 size card base. Now, I chose the same soft baby pink cardstock here that I used for the house so that everything ties together beautifully and the entire design feels perfectly balanced. And there you have it, a cozy little winter village all assembled and ready to send some love and hugs. I absolutely adore how this tiny house glows against that soft night sky, and those subtle touches of shimmer really make the scene come to life. As for the other little house from the die that we created, there are so many options. You could add it either in the inside of the card, decorate an envelope, or even create a whole second scene similar to this one. That way, you have two beautiful cards ready in no time. Well, I hope you had fun watching today's video and got inspired to create your own cozy winter scene. I'll have links to all the supplies that I used to create this card listed down in the description box below. Please note that all of those links are affiliate links, which means that if you shop using one of my links, I'll get a small commission at no cost to you guys. Thank you again for joining me today. Until next time, stay safe.